All right, welcome to tonight's show. So I'm going to give a recap tonight of the Bitcoin 2025 Prague conference that Saylor spoke at. He talks about the power of 21 and the potential that we could see a $21 million Bitcoin one day. And what would that look like? And what does the rate of return have to be like over what period of years for that to actually happen? So we're going to take a look tonight at that. And remember, not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice. Do your own research. So let's jump in at the Prague conference. If you want the Cliff Notes version, I'm going to go through it today and talk about Saylor's prophecy, as he's calling it, his prediction of the future of what's going to happen and why we are still very, very early as it relates to Bitcoin. And in 20 years, it'll be too late. So for people who are looking to get wealthy, get rich on Bitcoin, now is the time, per Saylor. 21 years later, it will be too late. Maybe even a decade later, it will be too late. So here's a little clip from Saylor to start us off, and we get rocked.
Rational world is Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Apple. They all buy Bitcoin with their cash flows. I mean, Apple would be worth an extra $1 trillion, right? If Apple basically started buying 20, $30 billion a year of Bitcoin, they spent 500 billion on their stock. Where would Apple be if they bought 500 billion worth of Bitcoin right now? I mean, granted, it was over a 10-year time period, but if you look at that, right, how do you increase the market cap of Apple or Meta by $1 trillion? And the answer is you start to take your cash flows and your treasury, and then you buy a capital asset that's plus 40% a year instead of one that's minus 4% a year. And when that happens, you can see in our macro model, the equity market's going to look good, right? That's going to put a boost in the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Magnificent Seven. So it's not, I guess my point is, I don't want to be a doomer like Bitcoin good, everything else bad, because the truth is you could say Bitcoin good, equity bad, and bonds bad, but if I actually back the bonds with Bitcoin, and if I back the currency with Bitcoin, and if I back the equity with Bitcoin, then they're all going up, right? So it's like just Bitcoin better, and everything else is actually going to grow, and that's the argument for Bitcoin. Just makes the world a better place, right? It's the constructive, cheerful, progressive, grow out of your own problems with a good technology, vision. As opposed to, this nation is going to melt down its currency and its banks are going to melt down, and we're all just going to jump on a lifeboat. So it's
Good. So that's Saylor on the podcast. I'll share another clip later from him at the Bitcoin Prague conference. But here's the Cliff Notes version of what he talked about at the conference. So, of course, you've heard Michael Saylor talk about Bitcoin potentially growing to $13 million per coin. But he also has come out with a new prophecy calling it the power of 21. He believes that Bitcoin can grow 29% every year. And in 21 years, that would put us at a $21 million Bitcoin. And there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. So the prophecy, the power of 21, it's pretty simple to remember. 21 million Bitcoin in existence. In 21 years, Saylor's predicting a $21 million Bitcoin. If you do the math, whatever you're holding now in Bitcoin times 29% compound annual growth rate per year, so you do it out over 21 years, you'll be pretty surprised what your actual investments grow to doing that. If you just do the power of or the rule of 72 and you take 30 and you divide it into 72, that means your money would double every 2.4 years. So let's call it every 2 years or so. So if you got 100,000 in there, in 2 years, you got 200,000. Then another 2, you got 400,000. Then you got 800,000. Then you got 1.6 million. Then you got this. If you got $1 million, you're looking at a big difference. So the opportunity at 29% a year, I don't think most people with traditional investments have looked at, or anybody has looked at, what would my wealth be at 29% a year for the next 21% a year, 21 years. I looked at it today for myself. It's staggering. And it's wise zooming out and taking a long-term view of what the next decade or 2 decades could look like with Bitcoin is the appropriate perspective. And of course, we're interested in the next 6 months in the bull run. Who's not? But it's staggering to look at what your wealth could be growing at 29% a year for the next 21 years. And Bitcoin would be at today's prices a $21 million Bitcoin. Think about that. That is huge. That is massive. So this conference, I think, blew the socks off people's feed on this one and just blew people over. And it's incredible what Saylor talked about there. So let's get into the second point of what he talked about. Saylor talked about at the Prague conference that over the last 11 months, Bitcoin has grown faster than gold, silver, stocks. It's gotten support from Wall Street, banks, governments. It's been called digital gold and economic energy. And, let's not forget the White House embraced Bitcoin. Even the president of the United States said America will be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. We're all still waiting on that. Time's ticking. When's that going to happen? But that's what the president of the United States said at the Bitcoin conference last year. So we'll see what happens with the U.S. and what they're going to do. As we all know, Strategy was the first public company to buy Bitcoin. That's why he's a pioneer. That's why he is the leader. It's almost like we have a decentralized network here with Bitcoin, but Saylor's kind of the CEO of that decentralized network, which is kind of funny. He's the visionary. Over 100 companies have Bitcoin treasury companies, Bitcoin treasury reserves now, where they've got Bitcoin in the reserves. And we've got firms like Trump Media, GameStop, MetaPlanet, the list goes on and on. And for the first time, you see financial analysts really giving price targets for Bitcoin like it's a real asset, which is an important thing. Michael Saylor says this: we went from tulip bulbs to something as profound as the light bulb. So Bitcoin is this invention of the last 1,000 years that is a profound invention, just like the light bulb. So pretty impressive. Bitcoin goes global. Let's talk about that. Other countries that are getting excited about this. You've got UK, you've got Ireland, you got Russia, you got China, you got El Salvador, you got many, many more countries. You got some that are passing laws to support Bitcoin. We've got the acts that have just been passed, like the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and the Bitcoin Act that was just passed. All of this is giving more regulation around Bitcoin, more clarity to determine what crypto assets, what's determined a security versus what's determined a commodity, like Bitcoin being a digital commodity. So we've got a lot more clarity that's come down the pike with crypto as a whole, and more regulation, which is a good thing for the space. So that's good news as well. And Saylor says that Bitcoin is the base layer of the entire crypto world. Everything else is built on top of it. It's the most stable, most trusted, and most powerful part of the system. And he says, quote, Bitcoin is the reserve currency of the crypto economy. So let's hear from Saylor. Let's get a clip from the Prague conference right now and hear from Michael Saylor himself.
That information, I'm going to now share my Bitcoin prophecy. I think we're going to be $21 million in 21 years. It's a very special time in the network. Maybe the one time in the history of the network where you look out 21 years and you see 21 million. I expect 21 million coins at a $21 million price in 21 years, and people ask, how's the network going to grow? It's going to be growing at 21% in 21 years. The volatility is going to be 21. The only number you need to remember is the number 21. And what does that look like?
Pretty epic, yeah? Pretty epic. So that's the prophecy, $21 million Bitcoin in 21 years. So 2025, so we're looking at 2046. But it's interesting, if you just take your calculator right now and you do the math on this, Saylor's saying that if it grows at 29% a year for the next 21 years, that's what you get. You get a $21 million Bitcoin. But if you just take your calculator and you do some math, or you take ChatGPT and you put it in, let's say you have one Bitcoin at 106,000. What will that grow to in 21 years at a 29% annual growth rate? So let's take a look at the math on this, yeah? Analyzing, $22 million. So you take one Bitcoin and you're talking about $22 million potential in 21 years. And even if you adjust that for inflation, in today's inflation numbers of 3%, which we know that's not really real, but that's what the CPI is, let's say, or that's what the Fed releases, 22 million spending probably like 11 million or so today. So just one Bitcoin could be worth $22 million in 21 years. That's not too hard to believe, that Bitcoin would grow at 29% a year for the next 21 years. And when you look at, the S&P 500 growing at 13% to 14%, is it too hard to believe that the most sound money on the face of the planet ever would grow by 29% a year over the next 21 years? I don't think so at all. Now you start looking at numbers. If you own more Bitcoin, and let's say you own 30 Bitcoin, and you do the math, or let's say you own 35 or 40 Bitcoin. If you do 48 Bitcoin and you put it into that compound annual growth rate, you'll be a billionaire in 21 years. So 48 Bitcoin could be worth $1 billion. So let's just do the math on it. So if you have 48 Bitcoin, 48, right, times $106,000. Let's get the exact math on it. So that's $5,088,000. So if $5 million, if you 5 million, because if you have 48 Bitcoin today, it's $5,088,000. So $5,088,000 grows at 29% over the next 21 years. The value should be about $1 billion. Yeah, $1 billion. So one needs 48 Bitcoin to be a billionaire potentially in 21 years. So where has this existed anywhere in history where somebody could invest in something this sound and this incredible with an asset that's digital, that's based on technology, that's only to capped at 21 million coins, that's only has 450 Bitcoin being issued every single day now, that's being gobbled up by BlackRock, gobbled up by Saylor, gobbled up by Bitcoin treasury companies? Where on planet Earth has this ever existed where people every day going about their business could take $100,000 and have it in Bitcoin right now and hold on to it for 21 years and have the potential of having $22 million? These opportunities don't come along, and we may never see something like this again in our lifetime. So this is pretty significant. So Bitcoin beats everything over the past 5 years. Bitcoin grew 56% per year. So to think that Bitcoin could not grow at 29% a year over the next 21 years, I think it's just illogical to say that it wouldn't. Now, Saylor says after 21 years, it could potentially level out at 21% a year. He's using the power of 21. It's a prophecy, right? But logically, it's not illogical to think that it'll grow at 29% for 21 years and then level out at 21%, and the volatility will drop. And one of the things he said in the interview, he says, by the time 21 years hit, it's too late. It'll become this huge asset at this point, and you won't be able to compete with the big money. You just won't. And the volatility will be gone, and the opportunity will be gone. So for those who think that we're too late, and 106,000 is too late. With a long-term time horizon, it's not too late. Not financial advice at all, but you look now, and Saylor thought, 5 years ago when he got in, he's like, I think I'm too late. I'm too late to the game. That was 5 years ago. He was thinking that. And even today, look how fast people are buying. Look how many companies are coming out today saying, hey, we're going to hold Bitcoin in our treasury. And they're doing it, and they're gobbling up Bitcoin, and it's just going to keep going. Now, could we have a drawdown? We absolutely could, but this is a long-term viewpoint that I'm stating right now. Bitcoin's not going to go up in a straight line without having dips, momentary or big ones, is my thought process on this. So the world's waking up. Saylor says every public company should recapitalize on Bitcoin, which basically means if a company wants to grow, it should buy freaking Bitcoin. So the world's waking up. 99.8% of the capital in the world still acts like Bitcoin doesn't exist, because only 0.2% of the capital in the world, guys, is allocated towards Bitcoin. Only 0.2%. So the prediction in the future is that 7% of the capital will be allocated towards Bitcoin in the future. And that's not unreasonable either. So lots of predictions coming down the pike here, but this is not far-fetched. To say that Bitcoin's going to go to 10 million one day, $10 million one day is not far-fetched at all in the slightest bit. 3 million's a layup. I think $3 million Bitcoin's a layup over the next 20 years. I think 10 million is totally doable. And I think 21 million at 29% a year, I think it's actually going to happen. So I do believe it. So I think it's fantastic. So after that, Bitcoin, what happens after 21 years? It could continue to grow at 21% a year is what Saylor believes. The volatility will get smoother over time, but it will always be a little volatile, and that's good. And Saylor says volatility is vitality. Volatility is Satoshi's gift to the faithful. Pretty cool, right? So the bumpy ride in general is what lets everyday people who are working really hard, the bumpy ride is what gives people a chance at wealth. Without the bumpy ride, you don't have this chance at wealth. The volatility is what gives you the chance at wealth. So when you see people who don't know anything about Bitcoin, when you see the large percentage of capital in the world not allocated to Bitcoin, when you see people just waking up to it who don't understand what it is, this bumpy ride of the volatility, when it goes too volatile, it's too up and down, this is why we are in it. And yes, when it drops, it sucks if you don't have a long-term horizon. It sucks if you're not going to hodl. But if you can learn to look at it from 5, 10, 20-year periods, as you look at the time horizon of Bitcoin, the bumpy road is why it's worth the ride. Without the bumps, you don't get the volatility. The volatility is the bumps. The bumps is the volatility. Without it, one can't get wealthy, right? In traditional investments, you can't. Compare the S&P 500 at 13% or 14% to Bitcoin doubling that, right? To doubling that every year, 29% a year. You can't compete. So this is where the world is. This is where the world is going. We are still extremely early. So one who has bought in and bought, let's say, strategy at $400, or one who bought Bitcoin at $100,000. Like I have friends who did that. If you have the long-term time horizon of this and you can stomach the bumps, one has the opportunity to get ahead and one has the opportunity to get wealthy. Remember, 48 Bitcoin, if you hold it today, you have the potential to be a billionaire in 21 years. What investment could do that for somebody? What investment? I don't know of one that exists out there that could do that. It's pretty damn impressive. So that is the story, and that is the good news of what's going on in the world. And I love the talk he gave. If you have a chance, it's all over the internet. You can go watch Michael's talk at the Prague conference. But again, he says 21 million coins, $21 million each coin in 21 years. So pretty easy to remember. Lots of 21s. You're not going to want to sell it in 21 years. You'll just wish you had more. That's what Saylor says. So what should you do in the meantime? Here's advice from Saylor. We'll close out with this. Dollar cost averaging. Buy small amounts regularly. HODL. Don't sell during scary times. And then number 3, use smart leverage like loans with low interest for long time periods. In another interview I was watching with him recently, he was talking about people taking equity from their house or refinancing their house and putting it into Bitcoin. Obviously, this is not financial advice from me, but this is from somebody who's looking at, if you take dead equity that's sitting in a house because equity earns zero, if one were able to get that out at a low interest rate and put it into the best performing asset of all time, one could probably do pretty well over the next 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years. Not recommending that you do it. I have taken loans and financed Bitcoin, so I've played that game before. I'm still playing that game, so I understand the power of borrowing at a low interest rate and then investing and allowing it to grow over time, which I think is very smart. One just needs to have the risk tolerance for that, and it's just a concept, just a theory, just an idea, not advice to do it, okay? So that is pretty interesting to see this new prophecy come out. I don't think that anybody thought we would have this many Bitcoin treasury companies in the game at this point, over 100, growing faster by the day. I don't think anybody would think that governments would be pouring on board just like they are at this point. And I don't think that most people would have thought we'd make the progress that we've made over the last 11 or 12 months. And we've made incredible progress. So while the times are choppy, while the times are kind of stable and stagnant a little bit for MSTR, stable and stagnant for Bitcoin a little bit. Remember, it's stable during tough times with the Middle East right now. It's stable with chaos going on in the world. And one can look out into the future and say, this will be the stable asset for the next decade and 2 decades. And the people who miss out on it are going to be kicking themselves in the future. The friends that you meet that say, man, I had Bitcoin. I could have bought Bitcoin back in 2013. Everybody's got their story, right? Everybody's got their story. I heard about it in 2015. I wish I bought. You hear those stories all the time now. Imagine what people are going to be saying 1 decade from now. 1 decade from now, they're going to be saying, I wish I didn't sell my Bitcoin. 1 decade from now, they're going to be saying, man, I should have bought Bitcoin. I should have listened. 1 decade from now, people are going to be looking back and wishing they had made these moves. And we are fortunate in this community that we have made these moves. So the objections, it's not too late at all. People say it's too late. People say it's a scam. People say it's like tulip bulbs. They use all these examples. Michael Saylor says it's not too late to use the wheel or fire or electricity or the internet. So there you have it. And in terms of legacy, if you look 21 years out into the future for your family, I don't know how you'll be, how old you'll be at that time. I'll be in my 60s. But if you look that far out into the future, one could see a life 20 years from now. And if you're even older than that, Saylor says, you have the chance to change your bloodline forever. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for your family, for your future. If you have 4.8 Bitcoin, you'll be a millionaire. If you have 48 Bitcoin, you'll be a billionaire. And let's not overlook the point here, again, of just how much 4.8 Bitcoin could be. I just showed you that 1 Bitcoin that grows at 29% a year for the next 21 years could be $22 million. So that means if you have 5 Bitcoin, you have $100 million. Make sense? 5 Bitcoin over the next 21 years at 29% could be worth $100 million. That's a big deal. Okay? That's a big deal. So I hope it serves you, and I hope that you win big on this, and I hope that you stay the course. And I know it's a fun game. It's a volatile game. I've been in this game for 7.5 years now. 7.5 years, and it feels like yesterday. And so I'm excited about the future. I hope you are too. And I hope you have a great rest of the night. And I wish you the best for this year. And I wish the best over the next 6 months that we have a blow off top on the bull run. I would love for more and more companies to just pour in. And Bitcoin just goes up, and strategy just goes up and has its momentary dips and just keeps going for the next couple of years. I am not stating that will happen, because I don't think that's a reality. I think we will run up, and I think we will drop down. I don't know how much, but I don't think it'll be a small drop like 20%. I think we'll run up and we'll have a drop. So we'll see how we look at the end of the year. We'll see as the bull run continues here. And remember, I think we are early, very, very, very early. Hope you have a great night. If you want to get updates in 2 minutes a day, I've got a new platform coming out called M Game. You can click down below in the link when you get down to YouTube. And I've got a new platform I'm creating with an AI version of me that gives updates on Bitcoin, on MicroStrategy, on stocks like Tesla, and some of my picks every day. And it gives future outlooks, it gives price points, it gives just quick updates on a daily basis. It's not released yet. I have my developer finishing it up. It's taking a little bit longer than expected, but it's a way to give people updates when they miss the show or they miss the market. Hope it serves you. And in fact, when I miss things too, I go to the platform right now, the beta version of it, and I watch. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that. So it's pretty cool to watch this AI version of me teaching me things because it's aggregating data from all the articles, all the things that are going on the internet, and it's pulling it into real time to share it in 2 minutes. All right. Hope it serves you. So the link's down below. You can go opt in early. Just put your name and your email, and we'll send you info when it comes out. All right. Hope you have a great rest of the night and stay well.